Your girlfriend is gone, and you're the prime suspect. Your only path to salvation. This guy, what I'd give to be in love. Our story begins with Iggy and Maren, an inseparable couple frolicking in the woods. He locks eyes with her and says, "I'm gonna love you for the rest of my life. Just love me for the rest of mine." She replies, foreshadowing. We cut to a groggy Iggy, who just woke up. Then Iggy closes his eyes and replays memories of Maren Wada. Second anyway, as he opens them, he spots a gaggle of reporters and angry bystanders. They hold signs condemning him for his alleged murder. Iggy drives off and heads to his parents' house. They meet for lunch, and his dad, Derek, insists. He steps up his lawyer game. "I'll even pay for it." He adds. Iggy refuses, preferring to stick with his childhood friend turned public defender Lee. Iggy's mother then mentions that whatever happened with Maren doesn't matter. He's still their son. The fact that even an inkling of doubt exists in their minds infuriates Iggy. Storms off, but his brother Terry knows how to lift the mood. "Yo, why my man's got an inhaler." In every movie, Lee pulls up and shares a double whammy of bad news. First off, the Evans lab that stored samples from Aaron's body was destroyed. SUS. And there's a new witness spreading dangerous allegations in an effort to take his mind off things. Iggy gets his hydration in check. The bar owner doesn't appreciate his business and states, "You spook everyone out." Glenna, another childhood friend, comes to the rescue. She pours him a drink and makes a tantalizing offer, though Iggy declines. But Iggy, she at night. A ceremony takes place for Maren at the scene of the crime. It's right by the treehouse of the couple regularly frequented. Maren's father, Dale, believes that his daughter cannot rest while Iggy walks free. Glenna is also there, and she spots Iggy in the treehouse. He even joins them in doing the little light thing after the group disperses and angry. Iggy stumbles down, though he quickly calms down. What he thinks of Maren. Suddenly, he notices a potential fire hazard. Fortunately, he saves the day. Thanks, Iggy. Very cool. Glenna returns and is like, "What is you doing?" Iggy shares that Maren went to church every Sunday, and yet God let this tragedy happen. First time personally, I would ask for a refund. Oh hey, more foreshadowing. The next morning, Iggy awakens, and he feels something stiff erecting upwards, and it's not the usual suspect. As he gets up, we see that he closed the deal with Glenna. Attaboy. Upon passing by a mirror, Iggy realizes that something ain't right. He takes a closer look and to his shock finds that his iconic scar has been replaced by baby horns. Right after he greets Glenna, who notices his horns, but strangely doesn't make much of it. Even more peculiar, she asks him for his permission to devour an entire box of donuts. "You do whatever you like." Had a girl. Iggy then takes a trip to the doctor's and encounters a screaming child with her mother in the waiting room. The woman feels compelled to strike up a scintillating conversation with our horny boy. She divulges her dissatisfaction with her marriage and kids and reveals her extracurricular activities. Yeah, boy, it's true what they say about black cars moving on. A nurse tends to Iggy while spouting some foolishness. "Or maybe I should just take a dump on the seat myself." Then the doctor pulls up and he's like, "What's the deal, son?" Iggy responds, "Do you not see anything weird about me? You mean, besides your horns, Apparently, the horns have a sort of amnesic effect. When you look at them, nothing seems out of the ordinary, and as soon as you look away, you forget they were even there. Iggy demands. A doctor saws the horns off, and they proceed with an impromptu operation, though he's not sure it'll work, but it'll be fun to try. As Iggy is sedated, he slips into a dream. Wake up, wake up, wake up. We're transported back to Iggy's first memory of Maren. We see her grab his attention by using her cross to reflect his son into his eyes. A little bit annoying, but as long as she's into me, I guess. Iggy asks his brother Terry who she is and what she's doing. His dad chimes in. I think it's Morse code for bug off, go play Roblox. Afterwards, Iggy sees that Maren left behind a broken cross necklace. He collects it. Then we cut to Iggy and the boys having a blast. Oh, and Glenna is there too. They blow things up as kids do. And then the chunky one, Eric, gets all defensive. "I'm saving my last cherry for something special." There's a joke about virginity somewhere in there. The kids protest, so he agrees to give up his cherry to whomever slides down the log ramp in their birthday suit. The Sigma male alpha chat of the group. Iggy accepts as he prepares to launch off. Glenna pleads with him. Music. "That's my secret, Glenna. I want to die." Iggy nearly drowns. Bully dives in to save him. Imagine, after all, that choker over here still doesn't want to give up the cherry, so Terry snatches it. Some time later, we see Lee fixing Maren's cross. While asking Iggy if he likes her, she's not like other girls, he says, before suggesting that maybe he should be the one to return the cross. Iggy puts forth a counteroffer. "I receive one Maren, and you receive one cherry." Sure, why not? At night, Iggy studies Morse code. Come on, it wasn't actually Morse code. Iggy returns across. The next time he sees Maren at church, they chat a bit outside, and we learn that her mother died, which is why she moved suddenly. Terry runs up and shares some grim news. Lee's girlfriend exploded. Applause. In hindsight, not the best trade deal. We cut to Iggy showing Marin the treehouse for the first time, got a great hiding spot. Then he somberly reveals that he lied. It was Lee who fixed the cross. If not for the trade, he'd be here. Instead, Marin explains that's not how any of this works in truth. She left the cross for Iggy. They shared their first kiss. Then we fast forward to the grown-up selves doing the same. And a bit more, Iggy awakens to find a hacksaw embedded in his horns. He takes a look at how much they've grown while the doctor proceeds with a spontaneous internal exam of the nurse. Well, modern medicine didn't help. Let's try God. Iggy visits a pastor, but he's not friendly. Damn, my man's wide. Anyway, nothing productive comes of this. So he visits Lee strangely. He doesn't see Iggy's horns. Weirdest prompts Iggy to conclude that if he really is this crazy, maybe he really did kill Marin seeking emotional support. Iggy visits his parents. His mother embraces him. But then, the horns compel her to speak the truth. Can you just go away? I don't want to hear your problems when you speak. I just want to start singing. It's definitely not for me, dog. Let's try some auto-tune. I now bring the drums. Let's go anyway. Let's see what Daddio has to say. Well, turns out he firmly believes Iggy is the murderer. Oh, and one of his friends worked at the evidence lab and burned it down for him. What next up? Iggy heads to the bar to see if he can find some answers, though a small army of reporters follows him. So he uses his demonic powers to make them fight. Hey, this is better than the UFC. Iggy enters, and he's kindly greeted by the owner. He asks everyone what they know about the nightmare and died. Then this guy whips his willy out. Can't show that. Fortunately, this guy provides an actual answer. My cousin's a cop, and he told me the new witness is the waitress that served you that night. She said she saw you drag Marin to your car. Iggy walks out while the owner sets the place ablaze. Having been compelled by the horns, he returns to his car and inspects a ring. We cut to a flashback of Iggy planning his proposal. He heads to a diner for the big night, but finds a somber Marin. She opens up about her desires to move to law, which Iggy is fine with. But then she adds we should see other people. His mood immediately turns to anguish as he asks, are you in love with someone else? Marin only offers up a blank stare. In response, Iggy becomes enraged and Marin walks off. Terry arrives. Just as Iggy is leaving, he walks up to Marin. Then we cut to the next morning. Eric, now a police officer, sternly asked Iggy when the last time he saw Marin was. Did something happen? It's all my fault. As he seemingly admits his guilt, we learn why everyone thinks he was behind the heinous act. Back in the present, Iggy visits the diner to find the waitress Veronica. She reveals that she's been making things up to the police in the hopes of becoming famous. Iggy storms off after noting that since his brother was there, he must know the truth. Magazine smiling, he stops by the bar that Terry is performing at and waits for him to finish. Meanwhile, Glenn is there, and she mentions that her stomach hurts. Apparently, the horns made her forget the donut incident. She then offers to polish Iggy's wand. Bro, come on, whatever. Iggy then gets Terry's attention, and the pair chat outside. He mentions the waitress, and Terry confirms that she's lying. Marin left the diner with me that night. Wait, what you told me you didn't see Marin? A scuffle ensues, and then we cut to flashback. Terry is driving Marin home, but he's acting like a creepy uncle. You're beautiful. You know that she gets out on the side of a road in the pouring rain and makes her way into the woods. The next thing he remembers is waking up with a bloodied rock in his car. He heads into the woods to investigate and finds what remains of Marin. Terry then tosses away the evidence. Before we return to the present, tensions escalate, and then the cops arrive. Eric apprehends Iggy and berates him. I wish I could just beat you to a pulp. His partner replies, stating that he'd like that, especially if they weren't wearing anything. Yeah, I like that. I like to think about you naked too. With the next morning, Lee bails Iggy out, but he notices that Lee is wearing Marin's cross. Lee initially denies it, but then reveals that he was the other man, and enraged Iggy leaves, then seeks the truth from Aaron's dad, Dale. He holds Iggy at gunpoint and admonishes him for coming here to question Marin's loyalty. He remarks that he thought things couldn't get worse after his wife died of cancer, but he was wrong. Still believing Iggy to be an evildoer, he sends him on his way later. And at an abandoned warehouse, Iggy desperately tries to remove his horns. Meanwhile, the Snake Squad pulls up. What's up with my mans? And Snake's story recapped here. They seem to befriend him, and he decides to accept his horns and use them to set things straight. Iggy pays a visit to Veronica with his buddies. The sneaky snakes slither up the car and strike. Veronica's left is figured as a triumphant. Iggy leans over her while Iggy heads to Terry's place next. The cops stop him, but he's got a spicy solution. Why don't you guys just go to town on each other? Carrier, alrighty. Then Iggy enters and finds a distraught Terry helping himself to all kinds of herbs and spices. Iggy berates him for only looking out for himself. You could have called an ambulance or told the cops the truth. He Says even if I said anything the cops wouldn't believe me, I'm your brother Terry counters. Nonetheless, Inky exacts his punishment. He compels Terry to eat all his herb spices, and candies y'all ever had Smarties them shoots hit different Terry, begins to hallucinate. As a distorted Iggy laughs at him, you can't handle my strongest potions. The trip starts off pleasant, but then things get serious. Terry sees visions of Marin before being consumed by the ground. The next morning, Iggy reflects on what